So that's the pipe.
You're not recording.
New check valve. Took the pump off.
I see what you brought over there.
And then we're gonna rebuild the pump. Now we're trying to get the piece apart from the pump, from the motor. We're using a small pry bar. Here, here, smacking with a mallet every now and then to kind of break it loose so we can get the pump apart from the motor. Okay, so we're having trouble getting these two pieces apart, the motor and the pump. Looks like it's been on there forever. So we're using a small pry bar here. Never go here where the bolt goes in because this is cast. You'll break that off. So we're going to go here.
I can't hear you.
And we're going to try with one on each side until we can try to get it loose. Okay, after using a couple of different pry bars, a mallet that you see in the back, you see that the pump wasn't pushing enough pressure. That's obvious why. This is just full of just everything. So we're going to clean it all out and put in a new water pump, impeller, and all the diaphragm and everything else. So get that done.
Guys,
It's like this because the water coming out of the well is iron rich.
And it was also galvanized pipes, and the galvanized pipes that we replaced in the first picture that we took was those pipes were rotted out and corroded, so all these little pieces started the corrosion probably inside from that and just continued probably, I guess. We're gonna have to clean all this out of here. It's a Gould's JO5 water pump. Obviously not working because of the sludge buildup inside. Haven't taken the diaphragm off, but we'll get to that in the impeller, and it's probably full. And that's probably why the pump quit pushing water. And that's our helper today. So now we got the other side cleaned out a little bit, but we noticed that once we got going in there that the manifold is just as full. So we're going to take it off and see what's inside there. I guess we're going to take it completely apart and continue cleaning, and then we'll go towards that area over there. But for now, we're going to take this apart and keep going. Okay, so we've taken the bolts out of the riser piece for the pump, and it's stuck on there pretty good, so we're going to give it a smack with a mallet. Hopefully we don't break anything and it comes right off. Get it. Nope. Okay, so we're going to go to a pry bar and see if we can use that. Nope. Okay, well, this is going to take some effort, so we'll get back to you. Okay, so we're still trying to get this riser piece off, and we've got all the bolts out, and the gasket and everything's corroded together. We've used a mallet, we've used a pry bar, we've used all kinds of stuff. Now we're going to try to raise it up, put a block under it, so we can keep from damaging anything else. And maybe it'll sit a little bit easier for us, and we'll continue to beat the hell out of it until it comes off. Okay, so it took a heavy duty putty knife to get in between where the gaskets are, here and here. Don't pry here, you'll break the cast, and you're not gonna have a part. You're gonna have to go get a new piece. So you pry back in here, and then it just comes off like that, and we can see inside that it's fully corroded. All that's corroded, all kinds of gunk inside. So we're gonna have to clean all that out too. Okay, so I'm using a pretty dull hive tool. You can see where I used the putty knife over here. You don't want that. You don't want to nick anything where the gaskets go. You don't want any of that. There's the gasket there. You can see it comes off fairly easy using the hive tool here that's not real sharp. It just kind of scrapes off like that. Go around, clean it all off. We'll wipe all that up later after we get it all the gasket off, and then we'll go ahead and start cleaning, and then we'll scrub it up one last time. But the gasket, it's a paper gasket, and you wouldn't think it would stick so well, but it was on there pretty good. So we're going to continue. Yeah, I'm using a really dull hive tool. I don't want any gouges in any of this. Nothing messed up there. We'll clean it up again, but there you go. We finally got all the gasket off, and this was the scrape tool we used. Actually, the scrape tool worked pretty good. It was very, very stiff. You can see it's really, really stiff, and that's how we got in there to get the gasket. It's a little bit sharp, but it was the only way we could get in there and get the gasket to break loose. So I've gotten to this part, and really having a lot of fun cleaning this, but it's not as bad as it looks. I'm now getting ready to take this whole thing, dip it in a big bucket, and start scrubbing the inside of it until I get it all clean. Yep. So the drain plug right there, we're trying to clean this out, and inside, if I can get a shot, I can't get a shot in there probably because I don't have a light. There's a little tiny tube, there's a little tiny hole inside there. Remember, it's clogged, and the whole inside is clogged. So we've been cleaning it out, and now we're putting it in a vise because we can't get that plug off of there. So now we're gonna try with our wrench. And we'll see if we can get it out. Okay, so we got it cleaned out. Let's see if I can get it to where you guys can see the little hole in there. There, right there is the little hole, and that was clogged, and that right there, it doesn't take but as you can see, a little tiny bit of crud, no water. So, and these pipes were full, as you saw in the beginning. So we have to make sure everything is clean, absolutely clean. Okay, so we got most of the gook out of there. give it one final cleaning scrub when we get to that point of putting it back together. We'll check it again and do a little more scrubbing if it looks like we need it. Here we are getting ready to take off the diaphragm and get into the impeller area, which the impeller, I'm assuming, is full. You know, before I take this off, I'm wondering if I should probably mark the holes, because with a scratch tool or something, and mark it up above. So I'm going to go ahead. I can't hold this and do it at the same time, so I'll do my best to try to show you. Mark there. Got a first mark there. Make a mark here. Okay, we're going to make them the center. We're going to try to center those marks, those scratch marks. So when we go to put the other diaphragm on, because I've never done this before, so I don't know if that makes any difference, but that's what I did. I did a scratch mark where the two holes went, so when I put the other diaphragm back on, I'm not guessing. Okay, get ready to take that off. Look at the impeller. Okay, just as I thought. Look at the gook in here. Look at the slime and the mess in there. It's a wonder this thing even works at all. Well, it didn't work. It quit working. It would only go to 20 pounds of pressure and would just run and run and run. So we're going to take this housing off to get to the impeller. That's the next thing we're going to do there. That's the back of the diaphragm. You can see how ugly that is. So we are going to get a Phillips head screwdriver and take those off, and we'll be right back. Okay, so here we are. We're at the point where we're going to take the housing for the impeller off, and it's just these little Phillips head screws. And remember, place the screws where you won't lose them, and try to remember, you know, which ones they are. If you need to take pictures, take pictures. That helps a lot. You'll know exactly, like, oh yeah, okay, that one went in there. That's kind of what I do. I take pictures of everything as I go, because if I've never done it before, when I go to put it back together, I won't know what's going on. So remember to save your screws, put them in a safe spot, don't drop them on the floor, and go ahead. Oh boy, that's a tough one. Okay, we got one that hates me. Okay, there we go. Make sure lots of pressure, don't strip them out. You strip it out, you're done. Then you got a whole nother project. It's called screw extraction. So, after we get this off, we'll get to the impeller and you'll get to see what it all looks like. Okay, this is like really corroded on there, and it's been a beast to try to get this thing off. So we're gonna take a pair of pliers and we're just gonna carefully pull this off. Actually, I had it in the wrong position. It was over here. I was just gonna video it because I was gonna show how hard it was. It was like this. And I should probably try to remember that also, because that's probably an important detail, or they wouldn't have the fin on there, right? So, but anyway, it was really hard to get off. I just took it, it was just so corroded on there. I didn't want to bang on it because it's plastic and all that. I got a new one to put on, so it doesn't matter if I, you know, chip this up or whatever. So I just took a pair of pliers and I just had to wiggle it really hard and then just pull it off of there. So, and there you go, there you have it. That's the inside of the cover. And as you can see, it's just caked. It's a mess. You can see where the water comes in. It's just nasty. So then this just unscrews, supposedly. I'm not sure, but oh, that's right. We've got to stop the motor from turning in order to do that. So we're going to figure that out, and we will be back. Okay, so I can't figure out how to any other way, and there's fins inside the motor, cooling fins, and so I've very carefully taken a screwdriver and pinned it inside against the cooling fins, and I'm going to try to undo this, and I'm really hoping it's not stuck, because if it's stuck and it breaks off the cooling fins, I've destroyed my motor. I've got to go in and tear that apart and put a new cooling fins in. So here we go. We're gonna give it a shot, and okay, that was barely even on there. Okay, well, that wasn't so bad. So we lucked out on that, and here comes the impeller. And well, honestly, it's a lot cleaner than I thought it would be. So it is a possibility that it may just have been so gunked up that every orifice on this whole pump was just clogged with gook. But we'll change the impeller anyway, even though it looks good. I don't even see any gook way down in there. I don't know if y'all can see that, but way down in there in the impeller, I don't see any gook there. So well, we'll see. But anyway, look at the mess here. We're gonna clean that out. We're gonna take this off. We're gonna change that out, but we're not gonna take that off till we clean all of this out first, because we don't know what's behind that either. I haven't done this before. So I'm gonna clean all this up, then we'll attempt to take that out. We have a new one of those, and if it's all gooked up like this, I'm sure that might be part of the problem. Who knows? So here we go. So anyway, I've started scraping some of this out of here, and as you can see, look at this pile. Look at this. Look at this. This is why the pump wasn't getting anywhere. Look how thick that is. Look at the buildup in the pump here. Let's take it down to the clean bare metal. But look how much junk was on there. We're gonna clean all that out, so none of that gets into the pump. Look at the mess there. Every orifice, every hole in this pump. You know, it's funny, instead of buying a new pump and spending all that money, you spend a few hours, I guess, might get lucky and clean all this up. Because I'm suspecting that it wasn't the impeller, because it was so clean. So I'm guessing that all this gook just had every orifice in this whole mess just full, stuck, the whole works. So there you have it. Okay, so we're down to this part here where we have our mechanical spring here, and I couldn't get it to pull off at all, so I just took a pair of channel locks and just very carefully wiggled it, and then I turned it, and then I wiggled it, and then I turned it, and I wiggled it, and then finally it just popped off like that. So there's another piece that's white that's down in there, and it's a seal, and it came with it, and I really don't know that I'm going to change that, because it's so corroded, and it is an old pump. It wasn't leaking. Probably just gonna clean it, and if I clean it and it looks like I can get that out of there, I will. If not, I'm just gonna put the mechanical spring back in, and we'll try it from there. So we're getting there. We've gotten everything apart, and we're cleaning it out and that sort of thing. You got to remember there's a diaphragm that goes on here, so, and it overlays this. So you don't want to like take a wire brush and just scrub a bunch of scratches all in it and everything. So basically take the plastic part of some kind of a plastic scraper or something, and just go around and try to scrape off all the gunk you can. But gosh, don't use sandpaper or anything abrasive there, because I mean, like I said, I've never done this before, but I know with gaskets you really don't want something there that's got a nick in it or anything like that, because if there's a nick in it, water's gonna find a way out. Okay, so I scraped it with my plastic scraper, and I didn't have anything else but some acetone, you know, available to go ahead and try to see if I make sure to get everything off of there. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I'm always one that if it's a gasket that's got to go back on, it better be clean. So it started to take the paint off over here, so a little bit. So I'm sure I'm getting all the residue off at this point. Like I said, just use a plastic scraper, get everything you can off of it. I'd get some thinner, lacquer thinner, acetone, something to clean it up with and get it to where it'll look, you know, clean, and you can put your diaphragm back on and not worry about it. So we've gotten it fairly clean, and to make this a quick short deal here, we're gonna put our new mechanical spring on. Goes on like this, not like that. Goes on like this. That goes on and gets pushed on there. After that's pushed on, this gets screwed on to there, but you have to use something to stop the motor from turning, so you can screw this on. So anyway, the next step is to put this on. Now I got as much crud out of this as I could possibly get without worrying about doing damage to the housing, because it was so corroded. So I pretty much got it cleaned up. The rest of it's gonna stay. It isn't gonna really come off of there, I don't believe. So this goes ahead, and we're just gonna push that back on there like that. And the gasket fell out for some reason. We'll get it in place, push it back in there best we can here, and then turn it a little bit and try it again. Of course the gasket would flop out because, well, I probably did something that a professional somebody wouldn't have done that way or something. But anyway, we're gonna push this back in there. That's kind of a pain in the ass, isn't it? Alright. Looking like it's back in there pretty good, and I would assume, yes, I'm assuming, that when we put our impeller on, that it will push all that where it's supposed to be when it tightens up. So, we're going to go ahead and jam up the motor again and screw this on there. Okay, so I was worried about the gasket here, and it didn't, when I pushed it on, it popped that gasket out. So you take a 3/4 inch, you know, deep socket like for a spark plug, and it kind of fits perfectly if you get it right there, and you can push on the whole mess. And look at that. You can even kind of tilt a little bit and push a corner in a little bit better if you like it. Now that looks much better than what we had earlier. It was kind of the gasket hanging out all over the place. Okay, so well, we've got the impeller back on. Boy, spinning nicely, no problems, nothing's hung up. Motor sounds like it's gonna run just fine. On here, I got a new housing. I figured if it was gonna be that gooked up, the housing was cheap. I mean, I don't think I spent but $100 just to get this right. But see the water is going to come out through here, and you want to make sure that it says top here. Look for the top of your motor. Both holes will line up, so you really can't screw up too bad unless you just get that top somewhere where it's not supposed to be. Okay, now I'm putting these screws back in. This is the guide vane. And I don't really like to screw everything down tight. I guess I like to, because it may not fit exactly, and I don't want to cross thread anything because everything's old. So I'm going to go ahead and put them all in first and line them all up. And get them in there where they go, because I want to make sure I can put them in with my fingers and I know that they're threaded before I go trying to crank on them with a screwdriver. Gotta remember, everything's old, we're rebuilding, it's not new. Even if it was new, I'd probably do it the same way. I'm always one to put them all in, make sure everything's nice and lined up, and then just go ahead and start screwing them down. Once you get them in there, you can go ahead and start screwing them down. Again, I like to do, I don't know, other people are different. I like to do a little bit at a time on each one. Make sure I don't over tighten somewhere and crack the plastic, because it is just plastic, or strip it out or whatever. So there you go, it's back on, and we may tighten those up a little tighter, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we're going to put on the diaphragm. If you remember, in the very beginning, I made some scratch marks because this diaphragm has some holes in it. And see, I'd cut this with a knife, or I'd cut it open with scissors or something, but honestly, I don't want to go find another one. This one was hard enough to find at the parts house. So we're just going to rip it open. What the heck, why not, right? Slip of a knife, and this with the scissors, and I'm off to the parts house. So somewhere on here, I made some scratch marks. Okay, here's one. Where's the other one? Wasn't far. Let's go and find it. There, okay. Yep, here's a scratch mark. Here's the other scratch mark. And I'm glad I did that, because really there's nothing here to tell me where those two holes go. I could probably look it up in the schematic, but that would be too easy, right? So this piece here is going to go on here, and then I'm going to line up. I centered my scratch marks on the holes, so I'll line that up with the scratch marks. But first, before I put this on there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean all this so I don't get it all over my new diaphragm. Just notice that's all filthy right there, so we're going to clean that up. Okay, so we cleaned it all up. We got it. I didn't want all that junk falling in, you know, right here along this edge right here. It was just filthy, and so I took the wire brush, cleaned it all out so it wouldn't fall in when we put it back together. Then we made our two scratch marks where these go. I don't know if that made any difference, or probably says somewhere in the schematic, hey, put those in the middle. I'm just putting them back where they were by using a scratch mark, centering that on there. And then this piece, which is your guide vane seal. It's a 5K6 guide vane seal ring, what it's really called on the package. So that goes there. And then we're gonna take a look at the housing and make sure it's cleaned and ready to go. And really, there wasn't a whole lot of parts to this. It wasn't that bad. Probably shouldn't have said that. Yep, yeah, that was bad. Okay, so we got our diaphragm on, and everything's looking good. Everything's cleaned. Cleaned out the threads where these go. They're a little stuck. I probably ought to put some kind of anti-seed. Oh, it's already still got some on there. Make sure they go on by hand and get them threaded and get them started. See, the first try I didn't do that. Same thing here. Don't tighten everything down till you get them all in there. Make sure you go in with your fingers. You got them all nice and threaded in correctly. Don't cross thread them. You should just go in like that for quite a ways with your fingers. Hell, that one almost all the way down. And this one here, oh, no, that one doesn't want to go, so we're gonna, no, that one does not want to go. So we're gonna take it out. We're gonna see what the problem is. Find a wrench here. I don't think we cross-threaded anything, but we're just gonna take a look, make sure. No, we didn't cross-thread anything, but that might just be because we need to move it around. That's why we don't put all the bolts super tight when we get started. Like that one when I said, wow, that ran all the way down. Well, that was dumb. So, might just mean that it's misaligned. See that? It just fell into place. It was just a misalignment probably, and that's why you don't put all the bolts in tight as you go. You do them one at a time, make sure they go in and they're nice and easily put in with your fingers. You know, they're not cross-threaded. This one here, and look, they almost go all the way down, but just as much like doing that, and then I'll crank them down with a wrench and tighten them up. Okay, with the manifold off, I'm able to set this down flat. Remember, I put the diaphragm in, we got our bolts started and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, you know, you would think it would just, you know, flop in there and you could pound on it and it would go down flat. That's not happening. So basically what I'm doing is almost like head bolts on a car. See how loose that one is? Okay, well, I'm giving it a little bit of a crank, and then I'm coming over here and I'm giving a little crank, and then a little crank here. Look how that moves, and then I'll come back to this one and get, look, see, it's loose, so it's wiggling it down. That one, then I'll come over here, that one. Let's go back across the other side. Let's go back over here. See how it all of a sudden they're becoming loose across the corners. So I'm guessing that to put it back together, you're not going to be able to just pound it back together. You're going to have to slowly move from bolt to bolt to get it to go straight down as you tighten it up. So I just thought I'd throw that in there because I found that out by accident. So there you have it. All right, so we got it all back together. Got all our bolts in. It's nice and clean, looking good. I started looking at this. This is another area you want to make sure not to scrape this, make any cuts in it. Don't, like old gasket stuff. Same thing on here. You don't want to mar this up by any means. It's nice and clean as far as, you know, no gouges in it, so it won't leak. We're gonna put a new gasket on it. we got us an it's a nice brand new gasket. We're gonna put it on there, and but before we put this on there, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our plastic scraper again. We're gonna get as much of this old stuff as we can off of there, and then I'm gonna wipe it with acetone again. And it's something I didn't mention earlier is when you're putting the rubber gaskets on, let the acetone dry. Don't just throw the gasket on top of the acetone, because it probably just eat the gasket. Who knows? I would wait, let it dry. That's why I said acetone, lacquer thinner, something like that to clean it. Something that dries really fast. Now, if you use lacquer thinner, make sure you're not near a flame, because that stuff is super flammable. But anyway, I'm very particular too about certain things, and this is just so dirty that I thought, you know, what the heck, you know, I'm right here, I'm able to clean it up, I've got a mess going anyway. Does it matter? I don't know. Never done one of these before, but I'm gonna go ahead and, you know, look how nice and clean that is. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna clean this up, and I'll clean that up, and then I'm gonna wipe everything down with some thinner and get it all scrubbed up. And heck, we never know. Maybe this pump will go for a little while longer. We won't have to spend the $1,000 or whatever they want for a new one. So, and if you don't have it, I guess, you know, for $100 and a little bit of time, it's really worth it if it works to just go ahead and rebuild it. I mean, the motor sounded great. It never stopped spinning, never made a noise, nothing. So, all right, well, we'll get this done and we'll get back to you when we get this part put together. Okay, so we got everything pretty cleaned, nice and wiped off. Used a little acetone. I've let it dry, nice and dry. We're gonna go ahead and put our new gasket on. And we're just gonna carefully hold the gasket in place. And it's not gonna go in there, is it? Ah, okay, so there we go. All right, so we've got that in place. We're gonna do the same thing we did before. We're gonna find that first one. We know it's in there somewhere. Let's try a different one. Maybe it's lined up, who knows, you never know. Well, there's one, so we know that's good. We'll let her swing on that till we get this one down here. We know there's a hole in there somewhere. Okay. Our gasket's still lined up a little bit. Oh, come on. Alright, let's see if we can find this one. Okay, so we found the other one. So now, hopefully, the rest of them should be fairly close to lined up. Yep, that one found its way in. We're threading in by hand, so that's a good one. This one definitely should be easy again. There, should have said easy again. Gotta stop doing that, because it's not easy. Okay. Yeah, we got another one that maybe we'll take a brush to clean it up a little bit better. Get some of the gook out of it. By the way, clean your bolts as you go. Once you got everything apart, you might as well. Might help you thread. See, look, now I can thread it back in with my fingers. I know it's in the right spot. It's a little tighter than the other ones, but I used a couple 2x4s on the back side here to get it level so I could actually work on it. That kind of helped out a lot. But then again, let's get back to this part. The same thing. See how it wants to fall. You can probably go ahead and get one close to tight. Probably wouldn't hurt anything. Neither would a ratchet wrench, but you know, what the heck. Let's try to muscle it on in there a little bit further. And we'll get one pretty close that kind of holds it on. Keeps it tight to the unit. Okay, she's not going to fall off. So now we can probably turn around and get a 1/2 inch socket set, and we'll be in a lot better shape. Be right back. Okay, I'm back again, and we're going to make life a little easier. 1/2 inch socket wrench here, and we won't have to play with the open end the whole time. But then again, when you're doing gaskets, I don't know, everybody could say I'm wrong, I don't care, whatever, but that's how I do it. I don't tighten everything down until everything's pretty much together, and then I go around and I cross the tighten everything, so I feel like I get a good seal. Maybe it makes me just feel better because I did it that way. I don't know. This one here. Well, it's a lot faster than an open or box end. Okay, that one was kind of tight, so we'll go to this one. Tighten it up. Go to this one. Give it, well, that one's pretty loose. Alright. Just kind of snug that one. And we'll go to this one. Snug this one. Go back to this one. A lot of people probably don't do this, but I do. I don't know why. I've always had luck if I do it this way, that everything seems to go down flat. Nothing seems to be different in one of the spots where it probably would leak. Alright. Now we'll tighten those up. We'll be done with that. We'll go hook it back up and see if it works. Okay, so we've got everything back together. The first thing we did was, it's on an upright tank, so we had to slide that in, tighten that down, and before you put these little bolts on that hold the unit on top of the tank, you want to put this on first, because if you don't, you can't kind of get it lined up perfectly like it should be, and you might strip it out or whatever. So put that on first, and then go around and tighten on all your brackets. So anyway, we're about ready to finish it up, wire it up, and we're almost to the point where we might have running water. Okay, well, we've got it all back together, and we're waiting for the pump to shut off. We have pressure, which is good. Our pressure gauge is a little weird. Oh, no, it's close enough. 40 pounds, supposed to turn it off. We've got no leaks. And there you have it for $98. We'll go for another 30 years. Yep, this is a Gould JO5. And it was made in 10 of 85. They told us to throw it away. It was junk. We rebuilt it, new check valve. Everything's running perfect. Good luck on your project.